Hello! So, a few months ago, or a few weeks ago, I don't know when, I painted Zuko, Azula's brother, and I thought, why not do Azula next? And especially because I was inspired by the back-to-back pictures of Kaneki from Tokyo Ghoul, where his ghoul self and his human self, fully human self, were next to each other. And I thought it'd be cool to do a similar thing with Azula, but with her broke down self and with her pitch perfect queen self that we saw before she broke down and things happened. So usually when I'm drawing people, I like to do a realistic style, like I did with Zuko a few weeks back, but for this drawing I really wanted to stay true to the cartoon version of her, so basically the original version that she was created in. And so I'm not going to be painting her, I'm going to be using pencil crayons instead. As for positioning and which picture of her exactly I'm going to use, I'm not exactly using one image of her, I'm actually going to be using multiple images. I used a lot of reference photos for this drawing because it's not just one thing that I'm drawing. I need a lot of photos to copy and do the thing. So anyways, first I searched for pictures of Azula pre-breakdown and just looking like her queen self, you know, shooting lightning at people and probably gonna kill me if I mess with her kinda vibe. You know, and then afterwards I searched for her broken down self after May betrays her and then Tyler betrays her and then she goes cuckoo and yeah, so anyways, yeah, I got some pictures of her broke down self and I also got some pictures of her doing lightning stuff because I decided as I was looking for reference photos that her broke down self could be creating lightning while her pre-broken down self could be firebending, because it's really significant that Azula in the last Agni Kai used lightning and instead of hitting it at Zuko, she hit it at Katara behind Zuko and then Zuko jumps in and saves her and then it's like a moment and oh, and also while I was searching for reference photos, I found this really cool fan art that someone did and I thought that was really cool and I was like, oh my god, give me your digital art skills, damn. Anyways, so after I got all the pictures of Azula pre-breakdown and post-breakdown, I searched for some pictures of Kaneki back to back so that I can make sure that the positioning of the two people back to back would be correct. And honestly, I could have just searched up pictures of any two people back to back, but when I searched for back to back people, it showed me back to school stuff and crayons and yellow school buses and I was like, bruh. That aside, anyways, I just searched for a back-to-back picture of Kaneki so that I could have a good reference photo of two people back-to-back so that I can make sure that it actually looks like two people are back-to-back. And then after I got all my reference photos, I got one of the many sketchbooks that I have and I swear I have a problem. I just keep getting sketchbooks even though I already have sketchbooks at home. Oops. Anyways, I got my setup all set up and then I started drawing. So before I even drew any details in her face and her fingers and all those intricate little details in, I first made sure that I got the body positions right, because if her body positions weren't correct, then I would just have to change the whole thing and then all my hard work would be erased, literally erased. And so I drew the general outline of her body first before drawing anything else. I think with anatomy it's just so hard sometimes because one wrong line can sometimes just throw off the entire body and make it look completely different from how you want it to look. But after I made sure that both bodies were But after I made sure that both bodies were correct looking, I started drawing in the details starting with her hands. And the thing is, I didn't really find a reference photo of her fire ending with her hands, so I actually ended up having to use myself. Basically, I took pictures of my own hands so that I could use it as reference. And even though I have a picture of her lightning bending, producing lightning bending. It wasn't really that clear and it wasn't like the exact position that I wanted, so I actually took a picture of myself lightning bending as well. And for her facial expression, I first started using the expression that she made at the boiling rock, but it didn't feel like it worked, so I changed it. Look! She's Jeffree Star. Anyways, I changed it and whatnot, and I guess I didn't get it right that time either because I had to change it again. So look, she's Jeffree Star again. After I was finished with the facial expression of the pre-broken down Azula, I worked on the expression of the post-broken down Azula. And I should have mentioned this earlier, but I have post-broken down Azula in the back. Wait. No, this is the back. And then pre-broken down Azula in the front because I felt like it made more sense that way. You know, you'll have like your less ideal version of yourself like tucked behind you, so it would be in the back, and then the more ideal version of you is in the front. And it also makes sense chronologically. And I found that it was a lot easier to draw post-breakdown Azula's expression compared to pre-broken down Azula's facial expression. And I think it's because of what my art teacher told me a while back. She said that the uglier a person is, or conventionally ugly a person is, the more easy it is to draw them. Basically, it's easier to draw a witch with a bunch of warts and a misshapen face than it is to draw, say, Beyonce, because Beyonce is perfect and like we all know that. And here's what it looks like with the two facial expressions of the Azulas done. And then after that, I worked on the body armor or suit thing that Azula usually wears. And oh my god, like watching Avatar, you don't really notice all the intricate details that are part of her armor. You just kind of glaze past them a little bit. I think most people don't want to admit that they glaze over like her body armor and how intricate it is while they're watching the show, but I really, maybe this is just me, but as I was drawing her, I really just didn't notice how many little details there are in her armor and all the layers of clothing that she wears. And it was honestly kind of hard to draw all those layers. It just really makes you appreciate the show so much more and just makes you fall in love with the show all over again because you notice like another little detail. The robe that Azula wears before her coronation though was very easy to draw. Just a couple lines and like it was done. And here's what the finished full outline looks like. And with the outline done, the next step is to outline with pen because like I said earlier, I was going for the cartoon style or like the original style. And so that means that I gotta outline with pen, and I really don't like outlining with pen because I'm not that great at it. I always get so nervous about outlining with pen because it's a medium that you can't erase. If you make a mistake or smudge it, it's really hard to cover up and it's just very nerve-wracking for me. But I guess this was a good practice for me for if I do more kind of artwork like this in the future. Anyways, I just used a regular Muji pen, 0.38. If you're Asian, you know that 0.38 is where it's at. Muji pens. Not sponsored, but like, they're great. Anyways, I just used that kind of pen and outlined Azula, and then I erased the pencil lines. At first I didn't outline the hair because I thought that her hair was outlined using brown lines instead of black lines to make it seem more hair-like, like more looking like hair. But then I realized that her hair wasn't outlined in this picture. It's because she was under the light in that picture and the light would make her hair lighter. So I think when they were drawing her for that scene, they used brown lines instead of black lines to make it seem like her hair was being illuminated by the light. And I think it's a wonderful little detail that I didn't really think about until I was drawing this. And this is the finished pen outline. And if you look closely, you can see how wobbly my lines are, and it's just a disaster, honestly. Like, they say that the artist is the most critical about their work, and I guess it's true, because I just looking at it, all I see are the wobbly lines. But wobbly lines aside, next, we work on coloring. I didn't really have a plan for coloring. My style of coloring is honestly like kind of chaotic. I just kind of go all over the place. Like I go from one spot to the other spot and then that spot, and it's quite chaotic, but in the end it gets done, so that's all that matters, right? Anyways, as for coloring technique and style though, I didn't really do a lot of shading. I noticed that in the cartoon there's not that much shading, it's just very basic colors and shadows, and since I was following the art style of the show, I didn't do that much shading and just did a very solid color, kind of like paint bucket fill-in kind of feeling, matching the colors as best as I could. Here's what the finished, colored, pre-broken down Azula looks like. I forgot to mention this earlier, but I didn't want to draw the legs, not because I didn't have a reference photo for it. I could have just asked one of my parents to pose for me and gotten a picture that way and drawn the legs. I just didn't draw the legs out of pure laziness, so that's why she doesn't have any legs. Anyways, I worked on the broken down Azula next, and it really didn't take that long to color her in because she has a lot less detail on her. Her hair was a little bit more tricky though. Even though I said I wasn't doing that much shading for Azula, I did do a little more shading for her hair because I wanted to look textured. I think that the bun that she has is quite prominent, and it's a very important part of the scene because she did it herself. And why did she do it herself? Because she fired all of her servants. And why did she fire all of her servants? It's because she lost trust. And why did she lose trust? Because Mei and Ty Lee decided to not follow her. And why did they not follow her? Because character development, and like the show is awesome, and like if you haven't watched it at this point and you've gotten to this part of the video, why are you still watching? Anyways, yeah, it didn't take that long to color the post broken down Azula in. And I should mention this now that I didn't outline Azula's lips, because if I outlined her lips, it would make her lips seem like dirty in a sense. It just wouldn't look as good. It's something that I learned during art classes, that you're not supposed to outline lips and also blush. If you outline both of those, it just looks really weird. And if you look closely at Azula's lips from screenshots of her taken from the show, you can see that her lips aren't outlined there either. And this is what both Azulas look like with everything colored. So after both Azulas were fully colored in and they had their lipstick on and it looked really nice, it was time to add the elements, aka lightning bending and fire bending. And I could have used pencil crayon for this, but I didn't because I felt like using paint for this part would look really cool. The paper that I was using wasn't designed to hold paint, but because I'm using so little paint, it would be okay and it wouldn't just destroy the paper. So basically, when you're using a sketchbook that isn't designed for paint, don't use a lot of paint on it. Like excessive amounts, a little bit will not kill the paper, but a lot will probably kill the paper. And if you haven't noticed by now, I didn't find a picture of Azula firebending, not because I forgot, but actually because I don't need one. I've watched the show 4 times now, and like I see so many memes about Avatar on Instagram and on Facebook, and so I've memorized what the fire in Avatar looks like, and I think it's kind of sad but also somewhat of an achievement. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, so I didn't need a reference photo to paint the fire, and so I just went ahead and painted the fire, and then I painted the light. For the lightning, I didn't use any other colors for it. I know that the lighting in the show is white outlined with light blue, but for my drawing I felt like it would look better if it was just white, so I just used just white paint because the white paint was whiter than the paper, so it would actually show rather than just blend in. Okay, so after she was fully colored in and she got her fire bending on and she got her lightning bending on, I went to spray the drawing with fixing spray, which basically sets the drawing so that it doesn't smudge, which is nice. And you can think of fixing spray the same as setting spray that you use on your face after you've done your makeup. It just sets the drawing in place. Also, it was 10 p.m. when I went out to spray my drawing, that's why it's so dark. And also, as soon as I stepped out my front door to spray the drawing, I heard something, and so I looked up, and then when I look up, I see a cat, and it's staring straight at me. Like, it's making eye contact with me, and it was really jarring. Like, the cat itself wasn't scary, but then the fact that it was just making eye contact with me and appeared so suddenly and so on time with my departure from the inside of my house that it was just very surprising, but it was kind of a pleasant surprise in a way. I don't know. Maybe Azula reincarnated as a cat and she's watching me spray a drawing of her. I don't know. Anyways, this is the final product. My bangs are really long now, and I feel like with how long they are, I can probably imitate Azula's long tendrils surround her face like this, and I think I can probably look a little bit like Azula if I put some lipstick on and tie my hair up in a bun. So I'm gonna try that real quick. You know what? I tried. I actually can't see myself because I'm freaking blind, but yeah. I feel like I look more like the broken down version of Azula. I mean, it makes sense though. Who could actually be Azula?